Global Cannabis Applications Corp has a new technology-based platform that can aggregate data about cannabis and help us learn more about what it can be used for. And it's just good for the whole industry. So with me is the CEO of the company, Brad Moore. Brad, welcome.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with this platform. You've got efficacy. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, efficacy.
Okay. Explain the platform, what it does, and how can we benefit from it?
Sure. So efficacy is there are five interlocking technology. Efficacy is like a takeoff of the word efficacy. Our whole focus is on patient efficacy. We know that growers in the past have been able to produce a lot of products in the ground. But if you're going to say something's medical, there's two things that have to happen. The product has to be consistently produced, and then it has to be measured, right? And so the measurement is the efficacy part. So by using a combination of mobile technologies, blockchain, algorithms that we've developed with some of the leading algorithmic scientists in Israel, we've been able to put together what we call not a seed to sale solution, but a seed to sale to seed. So that means a full cycle of data all the way for every growing gram. So we start by measuring it with our partners from Purity IQ. Then for every batch that's going from that, we compare that batch to make sure it's consistent. We track it all the way through the life cycle, the development, simple seed to sale stuff. And then we attach consumer efficacy to it, and we feed it all the way back and run it through algorithms to determine what is the best potential product for a consumer.
Now, is this the first end-to-end cannabis data solution?
Well, I hope so, because I've got a patent pending on it. So we'll cross our fingers and find out about that. But yeah, it's from what we've seen. Look, we've been in this game since 2017, right? And we spent, my gosh, 2018, I must have spent like 7 months in Israel looking at it. And it's besides great food and the Mediterranean, they're huge leaders in technology. And when you look at the Israeli system, what you're going to actually see is they have 20 years. Every growers and cultivators are all attached to R&D facilities. So it's about the consumer, and that's critical. And, I've been in this industry around enough, and we made enough investments to see how much growers have actually really kind of controlled the sway. And you've seen that in Canada. So when we went to legalization, we just said, okay, it's like the end of prohibition. Now you can go buy it in the liquor store. They're a Canadian version. But really, what we were talking about before, if you took this product, what's the difference? What defines this product as medical and or recreational? And that's what we're actually focused on. And so by just using our technology and putting a simple QR code system on the top, where a consumer can take their phone and scan it and see everything there is to do with it and what's going to work best, that's hugely innovative. The level of data around that in terms of consumer trust, and for regulators, for countries that really want to get in to make it a real true medical product and a program, this level of data that we're doing is unprecedented. And that's why we did the Health Canada. We applied for the non-possession seller's license in Canada, is we're going to work with Canadians, and we're going to get them to say, hey, you know what, Mr. Grower, you can have our business, but we want to know that this product is driven by efficacy and the Purity IQ partnership, right? And if we can do that, we can actually make a difference.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the data has been missing from this industry. How was data collected in cannabis prior to this?
Well, it's interesting. It's always been there, but just take a look at COVID. Did we not have information about a lot of things that are going on, but it's been all over the place. So it's really about data aggregation, right? And it's about data focus. I always make the joke that my grandmother from Ireland used to say potatoes would be good for knee swelling. And I'd say, well, Grandma, maybe that potato would, but it's still a potato. So at the end of the day, the next one out of the ground could be 100% different. It's a living organism. So how do we do that, right? And so the very first thing is creating that fingerprint. And then you have a model for checking against consistency. And then you measure all the stuff to do with growing it, that data capture. So the data has been out there. You get a lot of data from clinical studies, but once again, go back to the potato model. how, if I can't prove, Jane, that the same potato that I'm selling you is exactly genetically the same as the one that was tested in the clinical study, how can I say that's good for you? So cannabis is no different. It's a plant. And, we don't know enough about the effects of it on the human body. There's too many things happening in it. Such a complex plant. We're not there yet. So we need to create a framework mechanism that, and which we've done, that allows for that to be measured and that data to be captured.
So explain the process then. Let's say I'm a cannabis farmer. I mean, how do I get involved with the platform? Where does it go from here? And how can a consumer know that that data they've got is accurate?
Yeah, for sure. So there's always a couple of things, right? And that's the reason, like I said, we focused on, when we were looking at Canada, everybody talks about Canada and cannabis. And when you take a look at it, at the end of the day, you still have, for example, if you want to buy something, you still have to get a hold of a clinician. You have to do your research, or they make recommendations, and they're still just looking at product sheets, right? So what we're doing is working with the consumer, and we're right in the middle as part of our last press release, our last press release is we're getting this license. As it takes time to get that, we're actually building a portal right now. After I get off the phone with you, I've got a call with Israel and our partners over at Purity, and we're going to build the smartest AI-based version of Reddit, where consumers can go in and start to get a better reference points about actually what's out there. Now, that doesn't mean that every product out there is going to be tracked and traced using our solution all the way from seed, what we call seed to seed. But what it does mean is that we're going to start educating. We're going to start educating consumers about that QR code. That's the key thing here. Can you imagine this? Imagine finding a product, it's got a QR code, you scan it with your phone, and you can see everything about all the data that was ever took to make that. And most importantly, your peers, what they're saying about that product. All growers have to do for us, it's very simple. And I'll use Canadian numbers here. So for example, if all the way from a grower to a distributor to a retail, because everybody has to be involved in this, the cost on an $8 product, a fully burdened cost on that to work with us is 8 cents. Or sorry, is 20 cents on an $8 product. Are you going to tell me that for 20 cents on an $8 product that you don't want to have that to drive more business, build consumer confidence? And so for them to do it with us, it's simple. Send me an email. Very simple thing to do. Send me an email, and it's just a matter of, we give them access to the software using KYC process. They log in, they create their account. It is on the blockchain, it's fully secure. We enable them. And for each growing step they do, they record it. They record the lab results. They want to record when the lights go on, the lights go off. Whatever they record, consumers are going to see it, and they're going to decide whether they can trust that product or not. And that's the power of it. It's consumer driven. So
is that who your customer is then? Everybody in the supply chain?
Everybody.
Okay. Farmer, manufacturer, retailer, I mean, everything, right?
100% farmer, manufacturer, retailer, because if they're not passing and moving it along, sooner or later there's going to be a gap, and you can't lie on the blockchain. That's the beauty about a blockchain, right? And the consumer can see that. And if there is something missing, you know what, at the end of the day, the efficacy rating from the consumers who have used it before, if it's like 1 star out of 5 star, that type of thing, like a Yelp review, it's not going to lie, right? And when we start generating those reports, looking at everything it takes to resolve an issue, you're going to see very quickly what works and what doesn't work. And so we have a saying, not a slogan, we have a focus phrase in the company. It goes, we want to measure what's happening in a person's body when they use a product at a specific product at a given point in time, and treating a targeted ailment. Okay. And that's what we've done with this technology stack.
Well, it's a decentralization trend that we've seen in other industries as well. So now, what would you say your sales would be in 2021?
So we've got targeted, what we call it is grams under contract. We say that because, one grower might do it for one line, one grower might do it for all their products. So we've got we're targeting 32 million grams under contract, and we make on average 38 cents between the SaaS licensing and the data sales that come from that, the manipulation of the data output, which is, I think, 2-3 press releases back we announced that, this 38 cents. So, we're looking roughly at 20 times or 32 times 38 cents, right? That's why I've got a CFO. He's great at math. I did all that hard multiplication.
Okay.
The guy with the MBA doesn't know how to do, so we'll leave it at that. And then for 2022, we'll have an aggregate between those 2 years of 122 million grams. So first year, 32 million grams under contract, with average revenue of 38 cents per gram between data sales and SaaS licensing. And I can tell you right now in the pipeline, we actually have a pipeline full of potential opportunities that we're working with of 195 million grams. So our target is 32 million grams, and our pipeline line right now is 195 million grams with deals at varying stages. So we're off to a pretty good start for 2021.
Okay. Well, and it's definitely something that's needed as, cannabis grows. I think, we saw, I think 6 states approve various levels of legality of cannabis in November in the US. So, I expect that to continue, and there'll be more data needed.
100%. And we really want to go into the message, like, the EU came out and they said back in the day in 2018 or early 2019, they said, we need to get this off Schedule 1. He goes, but we need more information. And as you know, information comes from data comes from technology. So that's what our focus is, right? We've got the platform, we've got the tools fully commercialized. And like I said, it's we say to growers, come to us or we're coming to you, right? And we're bringing the customers along. Your customers at the end of the day, when there's that QR code that's going to be on top, they're going to demand this. If you're going to put something, I have a very good friend got diagnosed, very, very good friend, September got diagnosed with cancer, and he was going through some treatments, and from the radiation had a lot of burning, and his whole thing, and that came out of this thing was, he was like, should I use something? And I said, no. And he goes, well, you're in the industry. I said, but there's no data around that product. I said, you can't put something in your system until you know. I said, unless you want to go spend 50 hours of doing research. He goes, I'm too sick to do that. I said, that's why we're doing this, right? Yeah. I said, so our focus is about transparency, but most importantly, not even transparency, just about facts and numbers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it makes sense. So thank you so much, Brad, for coming in. Best of luck, and join us again later this year and we'll get an update.
Thank you so much for having me.